Hi guys, it is Miriam here from Sweet Creations. Hope you're all keeping well. So tonight I'm making some water lilies. I was actually to be live in the Cake Friends Stay Creative group, but Facebook has other ideas basically, so it's not allowing me do lives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record it here for you that you will still get to see all the elements of it. It'll just be a little small bit delayed. I do apologise for anyone who's been waiting on the live demo. Sadly, this is real life. Live TV, it just sometimes doesn't allow you to operate as we want to. So the flowers that we're making here are the water lilies. So I've got a couple here. I've got three here just in a little vase. I do love them actually because they're a great kind of a statement flower for cakes or, exhibition pieces or centerpieces or something like that. There's lots and lots of little petals in it. And there are lots of different centers as well on the water lily. This is the center that I'm going to show you tonight, which is one that I do really love. This one here, it's quite fine. Okay, this is a second center that I have, just a little bit smaller. It's kind of done fairly similar to the first, a little bit smaller. And this is a third center then that I do as well. So it's a little bit more fantasy, I would say, a bit more kind of fireworky, that if you were doing something for a commercial or a fantasy themed competition or something, you could work that. And then we have the leaves and everything as well. So I'm just going to park that there. I'm going to show you the various different cutters and veiners and everything that I'm going to be using, so you can see them as well. First off, I'm using sugar flour paste, of course. It's all I use for all of my decorations and flowers is the sugar flour paste. This is my own brand of paste that I use. I have coloured some up green, just using green gel colour and an egg yellow or a yellow kind of colour, just to get that freshness into it. So they're the white and green are the two colours that I'm using. For these ones that I have here, I've coloured the paste a little bit peach. So you kind of can do a couple of variations if you want. I quite like the white one as well. So I just wanted to show you that tonight. But these ones here, I've done more in peach, and then I've added in some cerise pink kind of dusts into it. Equipment wise, very, very simple. So I have a sort of a ruscus kind of shape on it. I use three different sizes. So the first size that I use is about a 3 centimeter. Second size that I'm using is about a 4.5 centimeter cutter. And then the third size is 6.5 centimeter, thereabouts. They're the three sort of sizes that I use for the leaves, or for the petals, sorry. Okay. Veiner wise then, I'm using this guy here, which is just a water lily veiner, but it just has the straight lines down through it. So you could actually use an amaryllis, you could use a corn husk, you could use a lily veiner. Some orchid veiners have these kind of long lines going down through it as well. So you could use any of them if you can't get your hands on a water lily one itself. You could use that. It has that little cup in it, but I'll show you how to make the former for it. Wires then, for the petals, I'm using a 28 gauge wire. I just cut the wires in about 4 or 5, the full length wire in about 4 or 5. And for the center, I want 24 gauge wire. So it's quite simple. The center is all freehand. Apart from that, I'm just using the foam pad, and to wire the petals, I'm using the veining board, this is my veining board, which I designed for kind of really fine work, really nice fine work. So that's what we're using there. So quite simple, dusts and colours and everything. I'll come on to them shortly as well, just that you can see all the bits as I go through it all, so you'll get to see how I make everything. Okay, I have got a centre fully made. Just that it needs to be dry then when I start to assemble it, but I'm just going to show you how I make this guy here. So they're really nice kind of flamboyant center. I do really like these ones. They're nice and how would you say, just kind of this burst of colour on it. So for that center there, I'm going to take a little piece of white paste, and I'm going to blend it very, very pale green. You could leave it white if you wanted to, and you could dust it up if you want to do that. That's definitely not a problem. Sometimes people don't want to mix a whole lot of kind of colours and be left with a whole lot of little bits of colours. So you can do that as well. So I'm just taking a little piece of white and a little piece of green. This will do me kind of 5 or 6 centres, and just knead those together just so that I get quite a nice bright green, a light green kind of shape. Temperatures here today are at about 24, I think. So I've got my corn flour here on the side, which I just keep dipping my fingers into, because if the paste does feel that extra kind of little bit sticky, you just want to keep it that it's not sticking to your hands. So I just keep kind of dipping in and out of the corn flour. Let me just pop him there in case he gets a whack. So for the center then, what I'm doing is I'm taking a 24 gauge wire. I can use a longer one. I've got a slightly longer one here, so I'm going to use that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little hook just on the end of that, so it'll catch on the paste when I add it in. So just pop a hook there, catch it at the back and just bend that backwards. Okay, like this. The reason that you do this is the wire then goes up through the center of the hook so that your bud will be more centered on the hook. If you leave it without bending it backwards, the hook is kind of to the front and it can give you an off-center finish on it. Take a very small little piece of that paste that you colored green. So I'm just taking a little piece which is about 5 millimeters, thereabouts, okay? Just a very small little piece of that. I don't use any glue because the paste is very fresh, and like I say, because it's kind of very warm in here as well, I'm not using any glue because it just gets into a sticky mess. Place that onto the hook and I'm just tidying it underneath the little ball. Leave that little ball on the top of it, more bulbous. Okay, so we get this sort of fashion. That then is measuring 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters across, and it's about, I wanted about 1.5 centimeters down the length of it. Now most of that under part's going to be hidden, but I'll just want to be able to add in some stamens into the base of that. Once I've that done, then I take myself a scalpel or a sharp blade or whatever, and I just want to mark all these little lines right the way around, going from the center down. So just to keep marking that you get all these, it's like the illusion of all these other little stamens that you're going to have, they're going to open. That's what you're creating there. So you're creating that texture there on it. Okay, always just fix that back if you need to. Okay, so keep going that way. All right. And that gives you the center. You can leave that to dry then completely, or you can work on it straight away. If you're pretty used to it, you can work on it anyway straight away. What I want to do then is I want to just colour a very, very tiny little bit of paste in yellow. So I'm just going to use a yellow gel colour, and I just want a very tiny little amount of gel colour. We won't want a whole lot of paste. Let me just catch a little piece here. So again, this is all flour paste, which is just what I use all the time. And I just want to take a very tiny amount of gel just on the side of that paste. Okay, colour that up just to get it. If it's a little bit strong, you can add in a little bit more white paste anyway, but it is quite it's a statement center on any of these lilies, I would always say. So you just want to get that nice and yellow. Close that off. I might just pop in a little bit more white just to kind of bring that back a little bit. Okay, just a little small bit. There we go. Bit of corn flour just to take that stickiness from it, and you get that center. Okay, so once you have your paste coloured, and that's how I colour any of my paste. What I do when I'm colouring paste as well is that I never colour it in artificial light. I'll always colour it in daylight, because artificial light throws a yellow colour on things, kind of, and it just doesn't show you true colour, particularly if you're trying to match colours. you need to kind of just work in daylight. Also, if I was trying to match an exact color, I'd color my paste and I'd leave it stand for maybe about an hour, let the color develop, and then come back and make sure that it's at the right shade. Okay, that does look a lot stronger on camera than it actually is. Again, it's just all these lights and cameras that you're dealing with. So once you have your yellow ready, what we want to do then is we want to have our green center ready. Just going to pop that yellow in a pot for 1 second, and I'm just going to take a brush, because what I want to do is I want to colour the centre before I start adding stamens, just because it's more difficult to get in at it afterwards. So I'm just taking a little small dusting brush like this one here, very small little bit of kind of lime green. Okay, pop that there, little bit of green. I just want a very tiny amount, and just catching the top, catching those ridges with that green, so it just gives me a little bit more kind of definition on it. Okay, a little bit there. And then what I'll do is I'll actually take a second brush which has red on it. So I normally have brushes for red, for green, for yellow, and then with that brush I'll lie it on its side and I'll just catch those ridges just around the edge. So those ridges that we made, do you see how you're kind of not getting all right down into the grooves of the bud, but you're putting that burgundy on it, so it just kind of highlights them. Okay, that's your center ready then. Then what we can do is start with our yellow. And I work on the foam pad quite a bit, just because it's easier to kind of manipulate it, and it's easier to work on the foam pad, I find. So what I want to do is I want to take little pieces of the paste and I want to roll them into a carrot shape, a little pointed end on it. Okay, it's the same thing again, just going to get a little bit of corn flour as well. And let some air in. It's a beautiful day here today, so it's really gorgeous, but humidity is up now sky high. So going to take maybe about 6 of those guys and just work them into that little point. And then what I do is I join them in here underneath. Again, I'm not using glue. If you lie it on its side, it'll not go too far for you, or even upside down. So I start to join those on. And I put on maybe 4 or 5 of these first. That's 3, okay. And you see how they're going to cover down over the bud. Okay. I'll take off any of this excess anyway, so don't worry, it looks bulky, but we'll take most of it off. So I just join them up. If you keep it upside down, they'll all just kind of obviously hang down. And then what I'm going to do is just take off any of that excess that's there, just rock it back and forth, and you see how you can tear off then most of that kind of excess, right? So they start, that's the very, very center stamens. Do a couple more. The same thing into that little spike. You can go very, very fine on these, as fine as it allows you. Okay, I do them a little bit bigger maybe for the camera, just so you can see. Same thing again, and we want them kind of centered around the bud in the middle. Okay, then what we do is take off that excess again. Okay, get rid of all that and recenter everything. So make sure that they're all centered. Okay. I'm going to make a hook on this then, and I'm going to hang it upside down just that they can catch. But basically when I look at that from the top side, those little stamens will cover in a lot of the bud that you're going to have there on it. Okay. Make a hook while I'm making the rest of them, and it just gives them a couple of minutes just to catch. So then what I want to do is I want to take a kind of a smallish ball tool, okay, not too big. I'm going to take this yellow paste again, and I'm going to roll that again into the cone, not such a pointed end on these ones here. So roll You want to do, I probably do about maybe 20 of these for you. I'm just going to show you some of them and then I can let you see the one that's fully dry. So I'm just going to do a few. Roll them into that carrot shape. Take your ball tool, dip it into corn flour if you need to. Flatten that, and then you kind of flatten it from about halfway and it stretches it out and thins it. And you see how it gives you a rounded end there as well. Then what I do is on the end, I just pull that back, push out, pull in. Okay, so same here again, push out, pull in, and it just thins out the end. And by pushing out and pulling in, you get that little curve there on the end, and a little sort of a cup shape on it. So see you do this. So you'll make about 20 of those guys there. Take your center back then that you've made, and then what you want to do is you want that little cup facing inwards. So again, we're going to work upside down. Okay, going to place these on around the center stamens. So it's quite nice. I like this because there's a couple of different sort of size stamens or shaped stamens on it. So I quite like that. So I'm going in between the little spiky stamens with these guys here, and I just continue right around the center. And there can be lots and lots of these on the flower. Okay, so we just go in around again. Twiddle that round. I don't use glue just because it's all so fresh, it doesn't need glue. So just keep twiddling that around. Take off your excess then. Okay. And you see the finish it gives you here. So you see, we have the little spiky stamens, then we have the flattened ones and cupped ones. And when you look at it, you've got those couple of shapes on it. Now, if you look at the one that I've here, so you see how it is when it's finished. So it's got the green center in it there, right in the middle there. Then it's got the spiky stamens. Now I've coloured these, but I'll show you that now in a second. And then it's got these white outer stamens. So there's about 20 of those flat stamens on the outside. And you literally just keep adding them on. So in about, that would be one row of them. I do a second row and then a third row just to build that out so that you get that, if I look back at this one, so that you get that really nice kind of filled stamen. So same again, you've got that green centre, spiky stamens, and then the flat stamens, and that's your center of the flower. It's all done on one wire, so you don't have a huge amount of bulk and everything when you're trying to tape on extra stamens. So again, every time when I do this, I leave that hook and I hang it out of like a light shade or a little stand or something like that, just to give it a kind of let gravity kind of keep them down straight. So if I show you a couple more here, roll them into a carrot. When you're doing the flattened stamens, it's not quite so pointy. So we'll roll actually the more rounded end, okay? And then from about halfway down the stamen, press it down. So you don't dig into it, you just kind of smooth it down. At the end, you go out and come back. Smooth that down and go out and come back. So you get that little lip sort of on it, okay? And back, all right? And then again, you attach those onto your center. So you could do one row, let it dry, and then make some more and add that in and let it dry. If it's a thing you've let the center dry completely before adding on these stamens, you might need a little small bit of edible glue, but just go easy on it. Because if you use too much edible glue, then when you come to dust, you won't be able to dust it up properly. So same again, we just keep adding those on around in rows. When I go to the next row, I'm putting this petal in between the two petals beneath it. All right, twiddle that, take that off so you don't have a huge bulk in the center. Now that's only maybe about 10 or 12 stamens, but it's still, just let me tidy that up. It's still quite effective. So you see your centre then starts to form. Obviously that's not dry, so they're going to go everywhere. It makes kind of a nice fantasy flower even as it is, sort of a forsythia sort of a thing. But they'll be left alone to dry and then we'll colour and dust them. But that's how I make the centre of it. If I was doing a centre like this one here, this one, it's literally all spikes. So these guys here are literally worked around a center one on one wire again, and I just keep making lots and lots of spikes and putting them all around the center. So you can kind of do either. As I say, this is a bit more fantasy. This one is a bit more kind of botanical. So it just depends what you're using it for and time and how much you're getting paid for it. When it's finished then, as I say, they're at random. I don't want a kind of a full pattern. Like some of them are a little bit more shaggy than others, and that's fine. That's what I want. And a little bit more haphazard, and that's what I want there on it. All right. So that's our center. When we come then to do the petals of it, we take our veiner and our cutter. Normally what I have on the flowers is I have about 18 petals, so it's not too bad. If I was doing a competition piece, I'd probably have like 50 or maybe 60 thereabout. I'd have quite a few more on a competition piece. But for a commercial flower, I normally have about 18. Probably, yeah, for a competition piece, maybe 30, 40 even, it would be plenty. So what I do is I've my 3 sizes and I make 6 of each size for the flower. Okay, so let's do those next. So I'm taking my veining board and I'm using the biggest vein on the board. Just a little bit of paste on that there. Okay, you do corn flour on your board, and then I want to just take my white flour paste, okay, which is here. Let's take off a little piece. Always knead it up anyway before you start. So when you're starting to work with flour paste, you need to knead it up. Now, obviously, because it's so warm here today, it's kind of preconditioned. But say in the winter time when it's quite cold, you want to warm it up and temper the gum and just get it sort of activated that it works. I'm adding in corn flour, which I don't normally do, but it's literally just because humidity levels. But obviously wherever you're working or your conditions, you'll need to work on them. Place my paste down over the vein. Okay, pin that down, and again they're quite a fleshy flour that's sticking on me because I didn't put on enough corn flour, and I've a little bit there. Just let me see. Okay, sometimes you can either corn flour or you can grease. So if I'm greasing, it's using a little small bit of Trex or Crisco white fat. So I'll just rub that on because the corn flour sometimes is not the thing. So place that on. Place on my paste. Yeah, that's better. That just literally glided off. So roll that over without moving it so that you get that vein. So you see how the board gives you the vein. Now this veining board is specifically for very, very fine veins. I make them myself. I designed it and make it myself. So it's a really handy little piece of kit. So it gives me that little vein that's on the paste there. So then that is then where I'm going to put the wire. I'm going to choose just whichever size cutter that I want. I have them all made and already dried because obviously for dusting and assembly, I need them fully dry. Peel off any excess paste, pop your excess paste back into the tub and knock out your petal. Now, then what I want to do is I want to wire it. So again, I don't use any glue just because it's so fresh, but my wires are 28 gauge wire. I put that, so the wire really is going to go up into that vein that the board has made for me, okay? Place the wire onto the paste. My finger here is supporting the petal. My thumb is feeling exactly where the wire is going. All right, let me make sure you can see. So my thumb is feeling where the wire is going, but I want you to see it. So as I push, I twist, push and twist. You can see where the wire is. And normally I can feel with my thumb exactly where the wire is going to be. So I usually come in about 1/3 of the way into the petal. Tidy that then at the bottom. Then I want to take my ball tool. So I'm going to just use a slightly larger ball tool this time just to soften those edges. Now I only soften the edge, so I'm half on the petal, half off. Why do I only soften the edge? So it leaves the center a little bit thicker. That'll actually leave it a stronger petal for you as well. Take my veiner, corn flour, or you can corn flour the petal itself, whichever is easier. Sometimes for these dipped veiners, it's easier just to corn flour the petal. Place the petal in to the center. I can't remember what brand this veiner is. There is a nice little dip in it, but I'll show you now. See, it does give my petal that little bit of a dip. And when I take that out, I have that little cup in it, and make a hook, hang that upside down and let it dry. So you have that little small bit of hook. I leave them quite straight so that they're ready when I tape them. They'll kind of flash out from the center a little small bit anyway. If you want to make your own former, what you can do is you can take a piece of tin foil, usually doubled over unless it's very, very strong stuff. Place that down onto your veiner, press it in, place the top of the veiner on, and press that down well and kind of tidy in that tin foil there while you're pressing. And you see then what you have made is that you've made a former for that, which will then cradle it until it dries. You can make those formers, foil formers, for any flowers that you're making, or poppies or petals or leaves that you want to dry. And the beauty of the tin foil is, if I decide I want a little bit more of a cup on that, I can make a bit more of a cup, you know, just by kind of moving it about a little small bit. So I'll leave that alone to dry. Generally what I do is I make all my petals today, colour and dust and assemble then tomorrow, just so that everything is kind of cleaned down. Let me show you another, a second one, just to let you see the wiring again. So a little bit of Crisco or white veg fat on your board. Again, take a little piece of paste which is kneaded up and warmed up quite well. Oops. Okay, so knead that up and place that over the vein. So what vein do I use? I mean, this one, these guys are super fine. So for like 35 gauge wire, for the bigger one, then it's still not a very deep one, but I would use this for a bigger petal or a bigger leaf. Place your paste down, roll that over on the top. What you don't want to do is you don't want the paste to move. And you can go as thin as you want. But like I said, because a water lily is a little bit fleshy, I tend to leave them a little bit heavier than I normally would. Take your cutter then, and the vein is running up the center. Cut that out. Take off your excess, and your excess goes back into the pot because obviously you don't want to waste that. Okay, and then run your wire up that vein. So as you push, you twist, push and twist the wire, push and twist the wire, and that goes up along. You can see here I've got a little bit of a crease in it. That's okay. What I can do is I can re-roll that just to level it back down, and I can recut it again. It's not a problem. Just let me recut this. Okay, and just clean off any of those little edges. You don't want burrs or anything like that. If you need, you can take a scissors just to trim that and take off any of that excess. Okay. Okay, let's take off any of those little bits there. So I apologize I wasn't live on Facebook tonight. It is obviously some updates that either my phone is not liking or my Facebook is not liking. I'm not really sure. So in future I probably will just have to pre-record all my demonstrations and classes. Down onto the foam pad then again. Anyway, never mind, we get it all done eventually. And then into my veiner. So again, I'm going to cornflower the petal on the foam pad. It's just a little bit easier than trying to get, because what I'll end up is with a big nest of cornflower down in the base there that I don't want. Place the top on and she's ready. Okay. And again, give that a little bit of a squeeze and that'll start to release it for you, and it just pops straight out and you have that nice little cup in it already. Okay, and then we'll just place that into a former like this and leave it alone to dry. Okay, so what I do when I'm making any of these lilies is I'll make 6 of the small ones, 6 of the medium, and 6 of the large. That's generally what I do, unless, as I say, I'm making them for maybe a competition or something like that. Then obviously you're making them different anyway, because you're making them more of them and more kind of variety of sizes and shapes and everything. That's them there. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to show you the leaves. So for the leaves, I'm using this veiner here, which is a universal leaf bee from Blooms. This one is really, really nice vein, or lovely textures and everything on it. I've used it for nasturtiums. It's quite big actually, but it works for all sorts. I've used it for nasturtiums, the water lilies, lotus flowers, lots of different ones. It's about 10 centimeters across by 10 by 10 kind of roughly, but obviously you can take any size flower that you want or leaf that you want out from it. So what I want to do is just let me get rid of these wires. So you're always kind of tidying up a little small bit anyway, and I just want to get a full length 28 gauge wire for you. Full length 28, just let me grab one. 26 or 28 is usually good. I might go 26 actually. So just a full length 26 gauge wire I've gone on, and I want to just cut this into 3. So just let me find my little snips. Here we go. Cut it in. Let me just think, what am I doing? Let's go in 2. Let's just cut it in half actually. It'll be a little bit easier for us. Then what I'm doing is I'm taking my green paste. So this is a kind of a nice mid-green paste. I can add in a little bit of yellow, will always give it. Let me just show you how it does. So if I take a little bit of green paste, very small bit, so kind of 2 to 1, and mix that in, it'll just give you lots of freshness in the colour of the leaf, and I'll show you the before and after. So just blend that yellow through. Okay, blend that right the way through, and then you can see that's with the yellow in it, and this one here is without. So hopefully, let me show you on white, if you can see the difference on them. So this is with yellow and this is without yellow, just to give me that freshness on it. Okay, so let me just take a big enough piece. Probably I'm not going to do a huge one. The leaf that I have here is about 5-6 centimeters, but you can do bigger or smaller obviously. So I'm just going to blend that I have enough paste. Quite often I have kind of pots of colour on the go, just depend what I'm working for. At the minute I'm in the middle of preparing for Cake International obviously, for the competitions there, and also in Cork in March next year we have our only Irish Sugarcraft show, is the Cork Sugarcraft show. So that will be on early March. Next year there's always details on my pages anyway, kind of about shows coming up. And also I have the group, the sugar flower competitions group, which is specifically aimed for sugar flowers. Okay, so we've got a nice kind of mid-green mixed up there. Going to take my 2 leaves, and what I want to use is, I want to use my Perspex squares here. So I'll show you what they're for in a second. What I do is take a little piece of green paste, and I go roughly about 3-4 centimeters from the end of the wire, and I'm going to twiddle that paste onto the wire. So twiddling is basically rock back and forth with your thumb and finger, while my left hand then is holding the wire, and as I rock back and forth I climb up along the wire, and basically what you're doing is you're coating the wire in paste. Going to place that underneath the Perspex just to keep it fresh while I'm working on the second one. So these are the little Perspex squares or acrylic squares that I have. Same again, rock back and forth, climb up along the length of the wire, so you're just twiddling the paste onto the wire. Get that nice and smooth, and you don't want it too thick. You're really just coating the wire in paste. Leave those alone for a second, and I take then my piece of green paste, just let me pop them to one side. Take my piece of green paste and I pin that out to whatever size that you want to do. You can use a cutter for this. I'm just going to freehand. And again, because these are a water plant, it's the same as orchids, lotus, water lily, irises, any of those kind of things that are water plants or tropical plants. They're always a little bit thicker on the leaf than, let's say, for example, a rose leaf, because they hold water, because that's the kind of nature of them. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my wheel tool and I'm going to roughly cut a circle. I don't want a circle. I want it, you see how it's a little bit misshapen, and that's how I want it to be. Okay, you can make imperfect circles if you want, but generally they're a small bit misshapen. Then what we do is we're going to just bruise the edges of that just a little small bit to soften out the edges. Excess is going back into the pot again, always to keep it dry. So I'm always just popping that back into my pot just to keep it nice and dry. Just bruise those centers. You can put that onto the foam pad as well, and using your ball tool, just soften out all those edges. So this again gives you the illusion that you have a very, very thin piece of paste, when actually the center of it here I haven't touched, so it's quite thick, and that'll just give you a bit of strength in it. Okay, we want to then just place the perspex over that for a moment, taking your 2 pieces of wire that you've twiddled. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend them both at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to tape them together as one piece. Okay, so let me just get a little bit of tape and tape this together. So this I call a bird's foot technique. So I'm just taping the 2 of those together there. Now, so what I have now is my 2 pieces of paste at the end. You could have a third one if you wanted, like a bird, more like a bird's foot. You could do that if you wanted to as well, just to kind of give you a bit extra. If I was doing a much bigger leaf, I would put on a third one, or actually if I was doing a leaf the full size of this, I'd make 5 twiddles and tape them all together exactly the same. Then what I do is, taking the perspex off, I probably will need a very small little bit of glue on here, just because it's kind of been out in the air just for those few minutes. So I'm just using my edible glue, which is always on hand. Very, very tiny bit just on one side of those twiddles. Okay, sorry, I just tidy up bits and pieces as I go. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that kind of here. Okay, now then what I do is I take my veiner, dust that, let me get rid of that glue before I upend it. Dust that with corn flour. Now I want to place my leaf. So what I'm looking at here is this, if this is the base, so if this goes in here, then I want the stem to come down that little channel just so it doesn't cut through. Okay, take your corn flour, press that down so it won't slip on you. So you can just press that back down, place the top on and press. I would use the acrylic square quite a bit for, especially for bigger leaves like this, just because I can get an even pressure and I can get a better vein on it. Okay, I don't press down terrible hard here where I know the wires are, because they'll cut through the paste. Peel this off and you've got a lovely veined leaf. Okay, now what I do then is I'm going to just take that back, and I'm going to take a smaller ball tool and I'm just going to work the edges of that a little small bit. Okay, just to soften them. I don't want to frill, but I want to soften them just a little small bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take a larger piece of tin foil, place my leaf onto it, and I can bend those wires up a little bit if I want, and I can make that a little bit more kind of frilled, you know, and a bit of movement on that leaf, and let it dry then completely. So that'll give you your leaf there. All right, they are a little bit kind of cupped, you know, these leaves, but it is a lovely veined leaf. So that's the beauty with the tin foil, is that you can move it a little small bit. I'll leave that alone, let it dry, and then we're ready to assemble it. I have one fully dry and dusted a little bit as well for us. Okay, so let me just pop all those over and get ready then to assemble. Okay, normally I do prefer to make all my leaves and petals and then assemble them when everything is dry, just because the way that the dust travels, it can kind of, if you come back then to roll white or roll any of those colours, it can kind of obviously catch on the white and affect it. Okay, so I have got a set of colours, or set petals made, and I've started to dust them, and we have Our centre is drying. And, oh, it's not bad. It's not bad. See how quickly it's catching because it is quite warm in here. So it's actually not too bad. So I have 6 of the small ones, 6 medium, and 6 of the larger ones. And I did make a couple of the very, very large petals. I might need them, I might not. So I'm using my dusting box and I'm using a cerise pink dust for the petals, just something a little bit different. What I did with this one was I actually made the petals in peach, and then the backs of the petals are dusted in cerise, so you can see the colour change there. This one here, it's just done on the tips, and these ones here have a little bit of green, so you can kind of play with colour a little small bit as well if you want. So I have 6 of each of these petals. That's generally what I do on it. I'm taking then my pink brush, which is a bit wonky, but it's fine, onto my wax paper. So I take a little bit of dust onto the brush and onto the paper, and at the top of the petal I'm just catching the top just very, very lightly. For this one I don't want huge colour on it, but you can go the whole way if you want a bit more. So just catching the edge. And I mean, I have paintbrushes for all sorts of different colours, you know, and I keep one for pink, one for red, one for yellow, just because the colour tends to transfer. So I tend to just keep, this is my red brush. And I often buy cheap makeup brushes or, you know, kind of art brushes or stuff like that, because really they get destroyed. I have bought very expensive ones and they haven't been any way better than the cheaper ones, to be quite honest. So I generally just kind of use them till they wear out, and if they haven't cost me a huge amount, then I don't mind kind of once they're at the end of the journey. But I do have some that are, you know, old friends, like this yellow guy, but he's really good because he's quite soft. So, you know, I use them. I actually rarely get rid of brushes. So I'm just catching the edges, same thing again on all of those, just with that pink. As I say, you can travel it down a little bit if you want, front and back on these petals. I have these already done, so I'm just giving them a little bit of a top up, and the same on the medium. Okay, so just small bit of top up. What I'd say to you is you can always come back and add more in, but it's obviously a little bit more difficult to take it away, you know, so do it so far and then you can come back and add more in if you need to do that. Okay, then what I want is, I want to take my centre, which is fully dry. We've the green centre is already dusted, so we already did that. Going to take my cerise or a burgundy, and I'm just touching those little yellow bits, just careful not to break them, with that little bit of burgundy. You can leave it as is if you want, or you could go in with a deeper yellow. You could do that. I quite like that little touch of just barely tickle it with a little bit of burgundy. Okay, that's the centres. I'll keep him up there because he's the fresh lad, and leave him alone to dry. For the leaves then, what I have done is I've taken, this one here is fully dry, and you can see how there's a little bit of movement and all on it, and I've made him a little bit more cup shaped. So I'm taking the lime or a foliage green, something like that, lime dust, going from the centre, and I'm kind of just working it in the centre, and then I'm fanning it out towards the edges. Take off any excess, don't blow on it because it goes everywhere, and also if you're doing it for a cake, you don't want to blow on something that people then have got to eat. Then what I'm doing is I'm taking the cerise and I'm coming from the outside in. So the green goes the centre out, and the cerise then is coming from the outside in. Now I love this effect. I really like this. Okay. So hopefully, and if you've any questions or anything, just pop them in the comments here, and I'll see them and I can answer them. Or if I don't answer them, give me a whoosh, because sometimes I have several balls in the air at one time, as is the norm. I'm usually juggling a few different things. So a little bit on the back, just to give that some depth, and then I'll glaze that. So let me just get rid of these. Now, I'm not going to glaze under the phone or you know, on my green board, because obviously I don't want to do them. But what I just use is PME spray glaze, give that a little bit of a hoosh with it. You'll hear it, but I'll just don't do it on camera. So you see, a little bit of glaze like that. What I do then is I turn that upside down. Just let me see where I can do this. Turn it upside down and I spin it. And that just gets rid of any of the excess glaze. Now that'll dry off to more a matte, you know, it won't stay as shiny. I don't glaze the backs of the leaves because generally the backs of the leaves are not shiny anyway. So just on the front, and that's your leaf. It just, by glazing it, it sets all the colour and just kind of blends them all. It's lovely. I love glazing actually. Okay, so we just leave that lad to dry back off while I assemble. Okay, going to just assemble this fella now. So I'm taking a dark green tape. Going to just take, I have pre-cut some of this, but I may need to just run it through a little small bit. Scissors is probably handier. It's not cut the whole way through for me. So I use this green tape that I have is just full width, but I only want half width tape. So I'm literally just cutting it in half for it, because it will give us a much more effective finish. If you use full width tape on its own, it becomes very thick and kind of clunky. So you just want to thin it down a little small bit. Okay, so we have our centre is finished because you've got all the stamens and the pistil and everything is on there already. So now what I do is I start with my smallest petals, attach my tape onto the stem, and then I've 6. So I'll go in 3s. So I'll add 1. I bend the petal back 2, and as you turn then you see the tape is attaching the petals to the stem. 3. Okay, so that's my first 3 petals on there. Make sure that they're nice and tight, so just pull that leg, don't pull it, it's sugar, lads, not concrete. So just that it gets nice and tight. Then what I do is I take my second set of 3 of these guys and I go in between each one, so it can be behind and in between. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and they go on. All right, and then okay, so secure those down, pull them down tight just to make sure that they're all centered. Okay, and you're starting to form that center of the water lily. If you need to just tape down just to get everything nice and secure, you can do that, and just get them nice and tight. Then what I do is I tear off my tape, reattach that tape, and then I come with the second size. So again, bending that back, I'm always going in between 2 petals with the next row down. Okay, so this would be our 3rd row of petals. We did 3, then a row 3 of the smaller petals. Now we're on a row 3 of the middle-sized petals. Okay. And if you're doing these for commercial cakes, you would always make them, or generally make them, a little bit thicker and heavier. So that's our first set of 3 of the middle-sized petals. The reason being for the commercial cakes is because obviously it's probably got to do a lot more travel than it'd be the norm. You may not be carrying the cake or handling the cake, so you want a bit more strength in it. So generally for commercial flowers, I make flowers and I sell them, and I post them all over the world. So it's very, very, very rare I get a breakage. Very rare actually, but it's because I do make them a little bit thicker. You have to, because they obviously have a lot more kind of bashing about to do. So again, secure that. That's your second set of 6. And that even is a nice little size. So that one is measuring 8 centimeters across. So that's even a nice size, depending on if you were doing these for a cake, if you just want a little half open one. Generally I like the full size. So bring my tape down along, and all the time I tear that off, reattach it. So I'm stretching the tape there ahead of itself the whole time, and that releases any of the glue that's in it as well. Now we start with the biggest size. So again, a row 3 and then a second row 3. And I'm going in between, so you can see how we're creating this lotus effect or water lily effect on it. If it's a thing they move or they jostle about a little bit, that's fine, because they're all individually wired. You can kind of move them about anyway, okay? Generally, when you get to these bigger ones, you'll probably get them all on one row, so this largest size. So you see now how we're almost there, and that lad goes in there. So it's always rows of 6 on these. Generally on flowers, they're odd numbers in petals, but for this one, I do even petals in a row. Okay, and then you can decide, reposition them wherever you need to, and then you can decide, do you want to pop in these last? I've only 3, so they may not work. I think, let's have a look before I attach. 1, 2, 3. Well, no. No. Okay, so let's leave it at this, and let's park you guys. So then I just want to finish that down, taping my stem so that the tape is all neat and tidy and that it's secure. And obviously if you're putting this into a cake, you'll use a posy pick, so you'd never insert the wires directly into a cake because it's not food safe. And you certainly don't want to leave yourself open to anybody getting a little piece of tape or piece of wire when they're eating the cake. So you do your disclaimers and you explain to them that they're wires. Technically sugar flowers are non-edible anyway because they have the wires in it. So our leaf then is dried. You see how it's come back then to, it's not fully dry, but it's come back then to a kind of soft sheen. What I do then is I'll bend that leaf and I'll attach that in there so it just catches in underneath it. You see how it'll catch there for me, and that's how you do the water lilies. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. I know I do love making them because they're a really lovely statement flower. Just gently tape that on, because if it bangs it, it'll break. And you see, I mean, even just on its own, it's a nice little corsage. You could pop in another leaf if you wanted to, just kind of cup that there. You could pop that one in there if you wanted to as well. You can play about with that. So guys, that is it. I do apologize again that I wasn't able to go on live on Facebook. It's just Facebook. I do love it, but it does test me. If you have any questions, please pop them into the comments. I will post this up just as quickly as it'll load up for me, really, for you, and you can watch it. And any questions that you have, put them in the comments and I shall see them and answer them. Thank you so much for your patience again. And I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.